Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, I am public relations and you are paying for all of this. Write this down. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I am public relations and you are paying for all of this. I was reminded of this from an Ask Reddit about workplace meltdowns and thought I would share it here, in TFTS fashion. I've also expanded on it a bit since I seem to have some time on my hands. It's also all flooding back to me the more I think about it. It is long, so for those of you who have responsibilities to handle. For those of you that are having a nice, quiet, although boringly slow, Good Friday, I give you the tale of the always angry PR lady. The players involved. LK me, the poor, innocent bystander. DS Tech, the desk side tech that originally had the ticket. He's in a different department and has a manager. PR, the evil woman that the devil himself probably hid from. Top person to avoid at all costs unless you were just looking to be kicked. Lead, my lead. Director, my director and acting manager. The setting. Previous job, many years ago. Working a hybrid call center desk side gig. Still the FNG. When the actual desk side techs would go home, that's when I started to be the call center / desk side hybrid guy. As usual, our calls are recorded for training purposes, where training purposes means evidence to get someone fired. We supported internal employees only for a company that had many offices worldwide. We all worked in the HQ building and supported everyone from the janitor to the CEO. There was roughly 10,000 total with all the other buildings / campuses within the city itself. Also, we had no actual manager for our department at the time, so our director took that role. We had this list of people that we would always secretly hand out to the new people when they finished their 2-week training. Our leads and director knew the list existed, and knew it for the joke that it was. The list was the top 10 people that you were to ignore calls from if you were having a bad day. The call would roll to the next tech, so it was cool. Someone would handle it. Of course, we never officially did this. Our number one person to avoid at all costs on a bad day happened to work in the PR department. She also had a BlackBerry with, and I am not kidding, over 65,000 contacts. BBs are notorious for taking forever to back up and restore on a good day. Never mind a good day with the entire population of Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm willing to bet she still does, and this was a decade ago. It probably has the population of NYC programmed into by now though. And so it begins. From here until I come in, all of this info was in the notes / emails of the ticket, or relayed to me by DS Tech. On the day in question, PR has gotten another new BB. She is also getting ready to go on a business trip. PR was told at 8 a.m. by DS Tech that if she wanted to take her new BB with her on her business trip, that she needed to get her current BB to him before 10 a.m. PR finally calls DS Tech and gets her BB to him at 1 p.m. and asks if it will be ready by 4 p.m. DS Tech tells her that it is highly doubtful, and that she should just take her current, working BB. She puts up a fuss about it, gets Steka's manager involved. DS Tech is told to just get it done however he can. As always, it fails the first couple of times on backing up her massive amounts of data, and then continues to fail when loading it to the new one. PR calls DS Tech at 4 p.m. asking where her new BB is. He explains the issues and tells her that not only is the new one not ready, but the old one is currently in the middle of a 3-hour backup. If he stops it, there is a chance she could lose all her data. This is a problem because she never backs up her phone to her laptop, because it is not her job to make sure data is backed up. That's IT's job, not hers. Her words. PR is pissed and the meltdown is brewing nicely now. PR sends a number of emails to DS Tech about how terrible he is. She's also told him that her flight leaves at 5 p.m., and now she's going to miss it because she cannot go without her BB. Here's where I come in. By this point in the day, I am the only one physically in the office. My lead is working from home, so he's technically there. DS Tech comes to me at 5 p.m., his shift was 6A3P, telling me what's going on, gives me the ticket number, and says that when her phone is done with the backup, failed or not, take it to her if she is even still in the building. At least that way she will have the BB. The old BB finishes at 5:30 and I start calling PR. She never answers, so I leave a VM. Call again at 6, 6:15 and 6:30. Left VMs each time, updated notes and ticket each time. I leave at 7 and I'm not planning on waiting around on her wrath. If 7 gets here and I haven't heard from PR, then oh well. At 6:45, she calls me directly, and she is 10 different kinds of pissed off. She's mad because original tech went home and won't answer her calls or emails. She pissed because I told her that the only phone that was done was her old BB. She pissed because she has left the building, lies, she was there, because caller ID, and couldn't get her phone. She's pissed because her flight left an hour ago, and she's stranded at the airport, more lies. She goes on and on ranting and raving about how we didn't come get her phone until 1 p.m., we didn't do what she asked, we never get anything right, someone will be driving to the airport to deliver her phone to her, etc. Typical, it's always the IT guy's fault kind of stuff. She hangs up on me before I could even say a word. PR calls back 5 minutes later saying that she is now in the building, damn, that was a quick 15-mile drive, and is coming to get her phone. Hangs up on me again. She then calls from her desk phone again 10 minutes later, because she can't get through the doors on our floor after leaving the elevator lobby, and people like her is why it's locked down. I told her I would be happy to bring it down to her, or meet her in the lobby. We met in the lobby of her floor. She yanked the phone out of my hand and stormed off to her office. As I am getting back to my desk to pack up and leave, she calls me again. It's after 7 p.m. now, and I am supposed to be off, but figure, WTH. Might as well see what crap she has to say now. She gives it to me for 10 minutes straight. Tells me how this is all my fault that she missed her flight, how I locked her out of her BB causing her to get the password wrong 10 times and getting her BB wiped. When asked what she wanted it set to on her new BB, she wrote in an email of 1234. The password for her old BB was AB1234, and was unchanged. In the time it took me to get on the elevator, go up one floor and walk to my desk, she had managed to wipe her BB by putting in the wrong password, then spelling out BlackBerry with the wrong password 10 times. Instead of asking me to reset it through the server, she nuked it. I can still hear her words to this day. PR finally ended the call by saying, PR, I am public relations and I am the face of company. I will be giving your name and department to my director, so that he can charge you personally for my plane ticket. You are the reason I have missed my flight. You are the reason I will be late to this important meeting to company, and you, Mr. LK, will pay for every bit of this. She then hung up again. In 30 minutes I've managed to say tech support, this is LK to her 3 times, and here is your BlackBerry. All I could think after that last phone call was no, you work in PR, have an assistant as toxic as you are, and no, in fact, you can't actually do that. I'm kinda glad she hung up on me. I didn't get a chance to tell her how big of a *TCH she was. Which I am 80% sure I could have gotten away with at that point. At 7:30, I called lead, explained everything to him because I knew this was going to blow way up the ladder before it was over, and told him I was going home. He told me to log an hour of OT and come in an hour late to make up for the trouble. He said he'd get the phone guys to pull all the recording from her phone to our department and the original text department for the entire day and see what all she said. Fast forward a week or so. PR calls and I get her call on my phone. I somewhat loudly exclaim that PR lady is calling me again. Arg. Director, whose office is next to my cube, hears this and comes out. He waits until I hang up and asks, Director, how was PR's attitude? LK, surprisingly pleasant. Why do you ask? What did you do? Director, if she is ever the least bit rude to anyone in department, let me know. He then smiled and walked into his office without saying another word. I found out later that day from lead, director, PR manager, and PR director all had a come to Jesus meeting earlier that morning. It turns out that she did not miss her flight. It left at 9 p.m. that night. She did cut it close though, but that was after her telling everyone she had already missed it. Her phone was wiped, but she admitted to continuing to put in the wrong password and not asking us to reset it before it got wiped. She pretty much admitted to everything. Which lead and director said was sad because her director had all the phone calls and emails queued up and ready to play / read the moment she denied any of it. PR got written up and given a final warning all in one shot. The next one would presumably involve HR, security, a cardboard box, and the front door. From that day until she was transferred to another state, she was the nicest person who ever called. Write this down. I work for a small software company that makes software for businesses and factories. You won't find this software on your PC as a consumer, but it probably helped make your gum, ran some of your theme park rides, and regulated the AC for some very large corporate offices that do make software you'd have on your PC. Frequently the people we talk to are integrators. It's their job to install and set up our product for an end user. I'm the manager of the support department. I'm also a woman. One day a few weeks ago, one of my techs asks for help with a very upset integrator, complaining that our products aren't working properly. We'll call him Bob. Bob's having a problem with a hardware key, and was told, beats me by who nobody at my company, that this key should run everything. This is not possible. Our keys only work for one particular version at a time, and the top problem with these keys is that it has been activated with the wrong version. I tell the tech to ask him for the 5-digit serial number, which should be printed on the key, so that we can look it up in our web inventory and see what version it has. The tech tells me he's not confident in this guy's ability to read a serial number. I'm thinking he's exaggerating, and I have him pass the call to me. He was not exaggerating. This guy was a piece of work. I got the call around 4:30. I normally leave at 5. I was on the phone until 6. We found out that Bob's key wasn't activated at all. You can activate it using our website, but his computer was slower than a snail on weed. It was literally slow enough to get a cup of coffee between each page switch, and there were like 6 or 7 of these page switches that needed to happen. The guy didn't know his password for our website, so we had to go through the forgot password process, another couple of get a cup of coffee pages. He could apparently only check his email on his phone. He was at the customer's site and apparently didn't have webmail or didn't know how to use it, and the random password it sent him didn't work. He couldn't tell if a particular character was an I or an L, so he wanted to email it to me. I was going to protest that he shouldn't be sending anyone his password, but I'd already been on the phone with him for a while that I could tell the alternative was that he was going to lock himself out again, so I just let him email it. Turns out the character was a pipe symbol. So we're walking through the lengthy key activation process made even longer by his ancient computer. At one point the website literally timed out on us, and we had to start the process over, and he starts making small talk. We're past my quitting time by now, and I'm really not interested, but I also don't want to be rude. Bob tells me that he used to be good at this integration stuff, but then he took his boat around the world for a year. Doesn't everyone do something like that? And when he came back he forgot it all. He admits to me that he knows nada about our product. I'd like to remind you that he's an integrator. Someone has hired him specifically to install our product. He continues to talk about the fact that he has a boat, like I'm supposed to be impressed. Bob tells me that a coworker of his, we'll call him Jim, was fired from his current project for stealing a laptop. Now, this is not a huge industry we work in, and I've been working at this company for almost 15 years. I've talked to Jim many times over the years. I haven't talked to him recently, but he struck me as a smart guy. I can't imagine why on earth Jim would steal a laptop. I just sort of his story. Bob does not take the hint that I'm not interested in talking. At one point he asks me what I like to do in my spare time. Usually when people ask me this I give them something quirky, like I like to play Dungeons and Dragons, or I watch Doctor Who, but I really did not want to talk to this guy, so I gave him the most boring yet plausible thing I could think of. I watch Netflix, I told him. Oh, I love Netflix. I got the best documentary for you. Write this down. And Bob proceeds to talk for several minutes about this documentary about wolves that is apparently the most amazing thing ever. He didn't ask what sorts of things I watch on Netflix, mind you, and I don't get a chance to tell him I'm not interested whatsoever in documentaries. Finally, after an excruciatingly long time, we get the hardware key activated. It's 6 o'clock. I've got a long commute home. I've already long ago texted my husband to say that he should eat dinner without me and might even want to start putting our 2-year-old to bed, usually my job, without waiting for me. I do my due diligence and have him open the product to verify the key is working, even though I'm sure at this point that it will. It doesn't work. I stare at the computer for a few moments, frozen in horror that I'm not done with this guy, then put Bob on hold and shout out for the guy who normally stays until 6:30. He not on another call, thank God. I ask if he can take the call from me because I've had it. He agrees, and I explain politely as I can to Bob that I'm an hour past my quitting time, my dinner is already cold, and I need to pass him to someone else. This'll be his third support tech he has talked to all day. He's in a surprisingly good mood though, and lets me pass the call with no complaints, thanking me for my time. I found out the next day that it was a simple issue that the 6:30 guy was able to fix in no time, lucky for him. Bob emails us a few days later with another complaint about something. Not sure why I was CC'd. He had my email from when he sent me his password. Most of it was confused and didn't appear to be related to tech support, but he mentioned almost in passing about the monitor issue with that knows about. I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about, but upon reading the email very carefully I think maybe he was complaining that his monitors were laid out wrong. He had 6 monitors, 5 mounted on a wall in a horizontal line and 1 big one on a table. He was complaining that he needed to move his mouse all the way to the side of the 5 monitors to get it to go down to the monitor on the table. If I understood him correctly, that has nothing to do with our product, it's a Windows setting. Someone else replied to the lion's share of the email, but I replied as well and said something along the lines of, by the way, is not aware of any mouse issue related to our products. We don't restrict how the mouse moves between monitors. Instead of replying to me, he calls our office. As a manager, I don't normally take support calls that get escalated to me after someone else has taken them. The operator calls me up around 4 o'clock and says, I have Bob last name for you. Do you want to talk to him? I was completely frank with her and said absolutely not this close to quitting. I have her tell him I'm in a meeting and will call him back tomorrow. When I don't take his call, he responds to the email. It just says, knows very well what the monitor issue is. I reply with screenshots of the setting in Windows that determines how the mouse travels from one monitor to another, apologized for not being able to take his call, and said if that didn't help I could call him anytime after 8:30 Eastern tomorrow. I specifically said Eastern. I've done enough work with people in other time zones that I know I always need to specify what time zone I'm talking about. He responded to me to say that he knows about those settings, but they didn't work, and he is looking forward to hearing from me at 8. Not 8:30. The next day I get into the office at 8. I don't like to schedule calls exactly at that time in case I hit a lot of traffic, plus I like to have a few minutes at the beginning of the day to settle down, read my emails, etc. I purposely wait until after 8:30 to call him. It's around 8:45 as I dial, and only after I dial do I realize that he's in California. It's 5:45 a.m. his time. He did not specify a time zone in his email. You know what, I say to myself as it rings, this is what he asked for. If he's too dumb to convert time zones, that's his problem. Surprisingly, Bob picks up. It sounds like I just woke him, but the first thing he says to me is, "Did you understand the issue?" I think I did, but if that Windows setting didn't help then I have no idea, so I answer, kind of. He goes on to pretty much reiterate exactly what he said in the email about having the 5 monitors in a line and one on the table, and how when you're using or any other program you need to move the mouse. When he says or any other program, I start grinding my teeth. He finishes his statement with, and I'm starting to realize that this is not your problem. I'm trying to keep my cool. I say to him calmly, maybe a tad strained, no. No, it isn't. Pause. Can I help you with anything else? He moves on to another issue, which I'm able to explain away pretty quickly. Can I help you with anything else? And a third issue, quickly dealt with. I plink off 4 or 5 issues this way, always ending with, can I help you with anything else? Most of them are either him not understanding the product, or have nothing to do with our product. He tries to make small talk again, but since we're not waiting around for anything, I avoid it, and continue asking, can I help you with anything else? At one point he tells me he's on his boat. One of the things he asked me was how to upgrade from our 3rd to 4th generation of products. Because this can be a complex process, we've been told to offer our paid assistance programs when we are asked this question, so I do. He seems very interested in the idea that he can hire somebody to do the work for him. Yeah, this guy who is being paid to work with our products wants to pay us to set them up instead. Whatever, I just want to get off the phone as fast as possible, and I tell him that I'll have his sales representative contact him about the paid assistance program. I find out after the fact that he had already spoken to some of my team members for 1 or 2 of these issues, and I had given him the same exact answers that she had. I don't know whether he forgot that he'd asked already, or if he didn't like the first answer, and was fishing for a second opinion. Towards the end of the call, he says he wishes he could speak to me more often when he has issues because he likes people who get the job done. This sort of sentiment is not that unusual for me to hear from a previously upset person. One of the reasons I'm the manager is that I just have one of those ways with upset people, making them feel like they've been heard, and that we're doing our best to solve their problems, even if it's not resolved yet. If every customer who wanted to speak to me was allowed to do so, I'd never get off the phone. Eventually I hang up the phone with him and open and close a support case for his various questions and issues. I email my boss in upper management and the representative for Bob's region to tell them in diplomatic terms that Bob is an idiot who is quick to blame our product for things that is not our fault, and has the potential to make us look really bad in the face of end users, and if there's anything we can do to get him off of this project. A bad integrator could make us lose customers, and this guy was definitely a bad integrator. I don't want us to lose customers, and I really want an excuse to never talk to this man again. Unfortunately, I'm told there's not much we can do, other than try to convince him to come in for a training class. Meanwhile, Bob sends me another email replying to his last conversation about the monitors. It has no text, but has one image attachment. Oh God, what issue does he have now? I think to myself. I open the attachment, expecting a screenshot of our product showing an error or something. It's a picture of an older man who I assume is Bob, with a big white beard and a captain's hat on a boat with one hand on the wheel and an arm resting on the rail, looking off into the distance like the king of his domain. It's a photo obviously meant to be impressive. Here's a man who owns a boat. Ladies love boats. Oh my God, this idiot has sent me his photo like we're on a dating site. I have nothing to say. I don't reply. He has several more support calls over the next few days. A bunch of my team talks to him, and everyone has the same reaction to him that I did, that he's an idiot. At one point he asks again about upgrading products. I tell the tech working with Bob that he is absolutely not to do any work for Bob. Don't convert any files he sends you, I said, just answer his questions and send him documentation about the conversion tool. Then I contact the paid assistance program to find out why they're not doing the conversion for Bob. The paid assistance manager, we'll call him Nick, says they sent Bob a standard form to use to figure out much effort it'll take to do the upgrade so they can quote a number of hours. Nick sent me Bob's returned form. It looked something like this. Do you use product X? I don't know. Do you use product Y? I don't know. Do you use product Z? I don't know. How many files do you need upgraded? 1. Most likely not true, most of our customers have anywhere from 5 to 200 files. Nick says they quoted him something middle of the road and gave him a contract to sign. He hasn't returned the contract. I don't remember why, but I had occasion to speak with Bob again, and when I did I asked him what happened with the paid assistance program, since he seemed so excited to use it before. He told me something along the lines of, well, they said they needed to get a signature of somebody from before they could do the work. How stupid is that? I don't respond. It's not stupid at all to make sure the end user is on board, especially since this end user was part of the US government. Anyway, asked if we could do it, and he said we could, but he's technically and not part of, so I asked some other guys if it was okay, and they don't know a thing about the product, so they said, do whatever, but they're not signing it. Pause. Isn't that a dumb requirement? I told him I thought it was for liability reasons, and since I don't work in that department, I can't really say anything else about it. I'm really baffled as to why he can't just get the darn thing signed. He moves on to other topics. To my knowledge, the paid assistance never happened. Fast forward another few weeks. Bob has signed up for 2-week-long training classes with us in September. The training classes happen in the home office that I work out of, but I'm not involved with them and generally never see the trainees unless they happen to be at the front door when I come in. I have mostly forgotten about Bob until Tuesday morning when I have to attend a 9 a.m. meeting. I drop my laptop down on the table before the meeting starts and excuse myself to go to the facilities. This particular meeting room is right next to the front desk, and I have a minor panic attack when I realize Bob is standing right there inches from me. I recognize him from his photo. The beard is pretty distinctive, and I think he was even wearing the same captain's hat. Plus, the woman at the front desk said, "Here's your name tag, Bob." I bolt out into the hallway as fast as I can without looking like I'm running, and it wasn't until I got to the bathroom that I start to laugh at myself when I realize that he's never met me in person, and has no way to recognize me. He's still there when I come back, but I make it past him without incident. I have vacation the rest of the week and promptly forget about Bob. The rest of this story I heard secondhand by several people over the next few days. Many bits were told to me independently by different people, so I don't doubt their veracity. Bob showed up at the training class with all of his luggage. He had come here directly from the airport. He did not have a hotel reservation. He did not even have a car rental. When asked how he had arrived at the office, a 45-minute drive from the airport, assuming no traffic, he said that he had bummed a ride with a Russian priest. At one point he changed his clothes while he was in the training class. No one knows when he did this. They just noticed him later in the day with different clothing on. I'm not just talking about removing a sweater, either. He even had a different hat. This happened a few more times during the week-long class too. When the trainer found out that he didn't have a hotel reservation, he asked our secretary to get him a reservation at the hotel across the street. We have a deal with this hotel to get our customers a discount of something like $50 a night, but apparently even that discounted rate was more than Bob wanted to pay. He wound up making his own reservation at some Motel 6 or something about 20 minutes away. He still does not have a car rental. Somehow he convinced the trainer to drive him back and forth to the training class every day. Bob was completely disruptive in the training class. After every lecture portion he'd launch into a story to the whole room. He apparently said a lot of "write this down," like he had done to me on that first phone call. Instead of doing the labs he'd be checking his emails. He kept trying to listen to music during class. No headphones, mind you, he used a Bluetooth speaker. The trainer said he was an absolute nightmare. He started responding to almost all of Bob's comments with a dry, sarcastic, "I'm happy for you, Bob," and the rest of the class would chuckle. Bob seemed unaware that he was becoming the butt of the joke. At one point a few people got a glimpse of the hardware key he had been complaining about in the call that started this story, the one he couldn't read the serial number off of. No wonder it was dirty as heck and scratched up. It looked like it had been rescued from a garbage disposal. By the end of the week, I think it was Thursday, the trainer had got sick of Bob and told him he wasn't going to drive him around anymore and left him at our building. The next day Bob told the trainer that he'd got an Uber to go home that night. Turns out that was a lie. What really happened was that my boss, a VP of my company, who we'll call Fred, had been heading out of the building and happened to see Bob standing forlornly outside. Fred and Bob started talking, and somehow Bob convinced Fred to drive him to his hotel. Fred was unaware of the hotel drama and thought Bob was staying at the hotel across the street. Fred didn't realize his mistake until Bob was already in the car, and he was too nice to kick him out to the curb. Fred lives in the direct opposite direction from the office as Bob's hotel and drove way out of his way to get Bob home that night. Several people saw Bob taking sandwiches from the lunch tray and putting them in his luggage. We suspect that he ate them for dinner. If he was too cheap for a hotel or a car rental, he probably was too cheap to buy his own food. He came in early one day, and the shipper had to let him in and escort him to the training room. She walked him down a hallway, and since no one else was there yet, she had to turn on the lights. He turned them off again. He asked her what she was doing over the weekend, and she replied that she and her husband were very busy. He tried to hold her hand. She was creeped out as heck and said she was not under any circumstances going to let him in if he arrived early for his next training class. He didn't fly back until Monday. When asked why he didn't leave on Friday, he said something about wanting to go to the church of that priest who had given him a ride to the airport. Bob asked the trainer if he could come into our office over the weekend. The trainer said that no one would be here and the office would be locked. Bob asked the trainer if he could use our office as a home base on Monday before he flew home. The trainer said absolutely not. We have no idea how he got back to the airport. Maybe the priest drove him back. When he filled out the survey about the training class at the end of the week, he didn't have much to say. The only part he filled out was the "what could we have done to make the training better" part, and his answer was, "I wish I could have met Mercury 22. Thank goodness I had vacation." Apparently, he asked to meet me on more than one occasion, and if I had actually been there, somebody may have been conned into taking him to my desk. The trainer has apparently contacted Bob's boss at the integration company and told them not to bother sending him back for the second week of training. We're refusing to train him a second time due to how much he disrupted the first class. This part I'm not sure of the veracity of, but I hope to God it's true. The grapevine says that Bob is on probation at his company. He was sent to the training class to give him one last chance. He needs to learn our products and put that knowledge to use in the next 30 days, otherwise he's fired. According to our trainer, he did not pay enough attention to the class to have actually learned anything. I've dealt with upset customers, with stupid customers, with rude customers, with customers who insist the product should work in different ways, but this guy really takes the cake.